I think there's one thing that has to be said about the whole Star Wars franchise, is that there is a desire for wanting it to be good. Generally, the original trilogy, episode 4, 5 and 6, are considered good. The prequels, what we saw with The Last Jedi, maybe not so good. And there are so many strange things that we could go into discussing, such as Jar Jar, who shot first, and this.
One of our agents just landed. Better than a dozen troops.
What the hell is that? But I'm not here to bag on Star Wars. Poor Star Wars, I still love you. I want to continue on with what I'm finding with Origin Basic Access, and the game I wish to discuss is Star Wars Battlefront 2. I was going to speak on more games than just one, but I felt like there was enough to say about this game alone. Haha! Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Just you wait. The short sum of it all. Okay, wow. Great graphics, beautiful. Multiplayer could use some work, but the single player component, that is something that this game's got right. This game has dazzling graphics. Just look at it. Really, there's one thing to say about EA that it's good at. It's these blockbuster movie-like appearances. Yeah, it feels like watching a movie and I can't help but feel amazed. And the game is big. It's 80 gigabytes. You and a mate thinking of downloading this game and starting to play it in a couple of minutes? No. That's not going to happen. But you do get this highly textured game, which is a good thing for me. I've had a GTX 1060 for a few years now, and I keep playing old retro games. On offer, it has so much diversity in this game, where there's moments to play as first-person shooter, melee as a Jedi Knight, and fly around in X-Wings and TIE Fighters. The space combat portion of this game could have easily been a separate game, so to have it in here feels like a bonus. The controls mimic the same as all flight sim and space combat games, so it is easy to fit into the groove of it. The shooter component is a lot simpler than EA's other installments, crouch, strafe and sprint, but the characters have different special powers to learn and utilise. It did feel, I suppose in some ways, going backwards, as there are many additions to the first person genre that have come up, such as ducking into cover, firing over barricades, but the shooter component does work. The melee action as a Jedi Knight, yeah, it actually makes you feel quite a lot stronger, as you should feel. That you are like a superhero in comparison to just those shooting with blasters. Melee weapons in shooter games, I'm starting to accept it. Normally, I don't know what it was, there wasn't enough how I would describe weight to the melee weapons, in most shooter games anyway, but here it seems pretty good. It is great to have more third-person view shooters on the market as well. Not that I dislike first-person view games, but I like the option every now and again, just to have that larger viewing angle. And as a bit of fan service as well, we get to see all the favourite heroes from the movies. I particularly like the close-ups you get to see of Kylo and Darth Vader. Now, with multiplayer being the core component in this game, to be honest, it really needs some work. I will get to the single player part, which I think is pretty good, but this part, I have to say some things on it. Especially, well, the multiplayer is supposed to be the championing part of this game, and there's just a few irks that is there for the casual gamer like me. And okay, I will start with the initial. I'm not very good at these whole first-person shooter deathmatch, battle royales or massive multiplayer big shooters. Okay, I get that. But still, I really enjoyed the casual game of Counter-Strike. My complaints aren't really to do with the gameplay per se itself. It's getting into the game, which is a nightmare. This game really needs a player count in the main menus. Many times it can take about 30 minutes to an hour to get into a game, as it keeps stating that more players are needed. Having all the game modes probably doesn't help, as this seems to split the player base. From what I hear, it might be different on consoles, PlayStation and Xbox, but here in PC land, PC Master Race, I think this game is struggling. Just let us crossplay with Xbox and PS4 already. Not saying that you can't get a multiplayer game going, but it is a mission at times, and missions should only be in the single player campaign. It would be nice, even at least some indications which game modes you can join to get going and straight in, and which ones you can't. Please, for the love that's all good, bring back community server browsers where you can see what game mode is there, what the ping is, and how many players, and just let us choose which we want to jump in and play. There does seem to be this tendency lately in modern games for the multiplayer. You can only choose an option and then you're just thrown into, well, thrown randomly. Who knows where, what, why, who knows who you're playing with. Then there's a squad system. I have no idea if this thing actually works, as it seems to. All it seems to do is make sure that you and your friends are highlighted in the scoreboard. Don't even know if you get placed in the same squad, and sometimes I want to play against my friends in the same server. Yeah, I want to shoot my friends. Every now and again it's more fun to shoot at someone you know than some random I'll never see again. The only time we managed that is we hit the same button at the same time in the menus and crossed fingers that we landed in the same game and on opposite teams. Again, bring back new server browsers, please. It's quite baffling on what character class to play initially, but I think as I played more multiplayer I started to get into it and being able to try out different classes. After a few sessions the assault class became my go-to. There is a card system which inherently makes whoever's played the game longer stronger and allows you to pick a few extra abilities. Initially, I will admit, I wasn't so sure how I felt about that. I dislike any game which inherently starts people off not on a level playing field. But after a few hours and playing the game on successive days for a couple of weeks, I did start to see the fun of progressing through the cards and collecting and unlocking them. Still, I don't quite know how I feel about it. The major benefit would be if I could get strong bonuses and then match up with some mates who haven't played this game before and gave me an unfair advantage against them. Yeah, that would be great. Unfair and smear, I don't care. But remember, the game doesn't let you play against friends. And don't even get me started on which server should be played on. The player base seems to be split even further, with servers being in Australia, US, Japan, US East, Germany. I don't even know. I've got no idea which server I get put into, and some servers seem empty. I'd like a choice. If I wanted a game quickly, I could go into a match with a poor ping, or if I wanted a game with good ping, I could wait. But enough of the multiplayer component. We can get to at least what I think really has some shine to it, which is the single player campaign. I really enjoyed this. I liked it a lot. We get to follow Iden Versio in a story which connects Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, to Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Iden, who is portrayed by, I'm going to get this wrong, Janina Gavanka, the likeness that they have got and modelled is, well, the single player campaign is entertaining, sits at about 4 hours of the main campaign and 2 hours as an additional expansion, which is great for a weekend playthrough. It's been over a month and a half since I've played it and I can think back on it fondly. It takes an interesting perspective from the side of a Imperial commander, the bad guys, from the end of episode 6, and explores the story, which, without giving too many spoilers, it felt like it would fit in the universe well and had appropriate pacing and plot. It's actually pretty good, certainly fit for purpose. The characters all have a few different special powers to learn and utilise, which does add to the simpler shooter scheme, and the campaign flows through all the different aspects that the game has to offer in a well-balanced way, from starting with shooter levels, then flying through space, and cutting up things with lightsabers. I really enjoyed the space levels, threw me back to the days where I played Wing Commander. While the main part of the story is with Iden, you get to experience moments where you get to play as some of the old favourites such as Luke, Leia, Han and Lando. So what would be the final verdict on Star Wars Battlefront 2? How does it tie in with the Origin Basic Access? I would say the advice is that this game probably isn't a game you would want to pay full price for, or certainly I wouldn't want to. Maybe on a bargain bin it could be a worthwhile pickup, or in this case having a tacked onto the Origin Basic Access, I think that's perfect. Despite the great graphics, sound and potentially thrilling gameplay, the biggest issue for a game that is centered around multiplayer, the player base on PC is unknown, literally unknown. And my plea again, please show us the numbers so we know if we can jump into a game, especially since the game can take quite a while to go between loading screens. But I will end on a positive note. I really enjoyed the single player. I thought it tied in well with the movies and kept things fresh, which had me wanting to keep playing mission after one more mission, as if it was a book I couldn't put down. The single player, the diversity, a definite pull. Maybe for some, the multiplayer is, as much as I have my reservations on the multiplayer portion, I definitely did have at least a few fun rounds in it. And finally having it included in Origin Basic Access so I didn't have to pay more for it or feel like I wasted any money on the game, I think that was pretty good. Thank you for watching.